Welcome to Perfectly Imperfect, where women share their experiences and stories to empower one another. I'm your host, Tamisha Johnson. Keep up to date with all things Perfectly Imperfect by visiting our website, perfectlyimperfect.com. Now let's get to today's show. Our guest today is Miss Sonya Boatwright-Sewell, also known as Boatwright, as we, her friends, affectionately call her. Sonya and I have known each other since 1998, another long-term friend of mine. And one of the things we wanted to talk about today was dating with purpose and intention. So Sonya and I, we are 40. And one of the things we noticed as we got closer to 40 was that we had to change the way that we dated or be more strategic with our dating. And I wanted to interview Sonya because she's one of the only persons I know that was really intentional and really specific in her dating choices. And she stuck to her guns. Because of that, she is now a newlywed and she's been married. How long now, Sonya?
It's 3 years. October the 8th was 3 years.
Okay. So just to get started, Sonya, can you tell us, I guess, when did you make that shift into like changing your strategy with dating? I mean, like, I know we all as women strive to get married, but you know, when we're in our 20s, we're not being that, I guess, purposeful about it or intentional about it. So when did you, I guess, decided to be more intentional about it? Was it in your 30s, late 20s?
It was 2016, definitely my 30s, where I decided, like, I know that this is what I want and I have to really fully commit to it. But first I have to, commit to God. And so my thing was every year our church does 21 days of prayer at the beginning of the year. And in 2016, my prayer was, I just want peace, because I knew my heart's desire was to be married, but I didn't have peace with the fact that I was not married. So my prayer during those 21 days of prayer were, God, just give me peace. If it's to be married, then send my husband. If it's not, then I want peace with being single. But I didn't have peace, but that was just my prayer. I wanted peace with whatever God's will was for my life. So that was I just really buckled down January 2016, went to prayer every morning at the church, 6 a.m. to 7 a.m. and was just praying and fasting during that time. So that's when I truly can say that I got serious in my, purpose. But if marriage is it, then I want it. If it's not, then I want peace with whatever the situation is.
So when you say you want peace, did you find that you were obsessing over being married?
Absolutely. And like you said, in your 20s, you think about it a lot. And then when you start to reach 30, well, I can't say for everyone, but for me, when I started to reach 30, I think it did become an obsession. And I think in looking back, that's why it didn't happen, because it was an obsession. And it was just like, God is not going to give you anything that's going to compete with him. So I had to mature and realize that I was making marriage or being married this idol. And that, again, God's not going to compete with anything. So if I had marriage on this pedestal and not truly seeking peace for just having peace, just to have marriage, then it wasn't going to work. And I'm glad that during those 21 days of prayer and fasting, that it was revealed to me, like, how I idolized it. Yeah. And it was an obsession.
Yes. Because I remember when we graduated from college, your plan, you had an iron-out plan. You was like, you wanted to be married by this age and you wanted a certain number of kids because you came from a big family.
Exactly, Tamisha. You remember exactly. And that, in my mind, that's how it was supposed to be. Like, oh, okay, you got to get married by, 24, 25. Actually get married at 22, 23, right after college, because, you're both college graduates. So you get married, you start your first child, have your first child about 23, 24. I wanted 5 children. You remember that. Your memory is good, Johnson. I wanted to be finished by at least way before 35. I wanted to be married and have all my children by 35. And God was like, no, that's not the plan I have for you. I didn't get married until 37 and didn't have my first child until 38. So, and I hate to sound, no, I don't hate to sound it, but, the saying is a delay is not a denial. And I'm just thankful for the delay, because in that delay, it really matured me and grew me into the woman that I needed to be in order to get married and to be a wife and a mom.
Yeah, exactly. So let's talk about some of these intentions, because I actually remember some of those intentions. And one of the funny ones that I remember, I think you was going out with this guy for like a month or two. And I don't know, either he asked to borrow money or something for you. Mm-hmm. And you were like, oh no, he has to go because he's fiscally irresponsible. So I can't. Yeah. So I can't date him. And we were like, oh, wow. And you cut him off, right? At that point.
Yeah.
So can you share with us some of those intentions? Looking back at it now, like we did laugh back then, but, it's serious now that we're older.
Exactly.
Those are some things that you think about, like how financially responsible your potential partner will be.
Exactly. I can remember that when you're right. I wanted him to be financially responsible. And I also remember, I can't recall if you remember this, but I didn't want to date a guy that had children. I remember that being one. He had to be tall, dark, and handsome. In my mind, I had this image of what he needed to be physically, financially responsible, physically, and all this stuff. And then it's not opposite of what, my husband is, but it was just like, my intentions or what I thought what I wanted wasn't what I needed. And I'm glad I got what I needed and not what I thought I wanted.
Right. And I think like the older we get, we realize like some of the things we wanted were really superficial.
Exactly.
Like I know at one point I used to be like, I don't want a guy with kids. Yeah. But then I'm one of those kids. Like my stepdad married my mom when I was 2 years old. Mm-hmm. And I love my stepdad. Mm-hmm. And he treats me as if I'm his own. I mean, he married her when I was 2. So for all intents and purposes, that's my dad. So I realized like, I needed to be a little bit more realistic, and how could I judge on something like that? And I'm one of those kids in those situations.
And I think, as with everything, there's growth and maturity. Like when you're young, you just have in your mind this image, and it's not always realistic. Like I said, at our age now, 30s, late 30s, 40s, most of the people that we encounter, they have children, or they've either been married, because that was another thing. I didn't want anyone that was previously married or divorced. But in our age, it's like, those people, guys, they have likely been married or divorced. And that's not to say it's right or wrong, but I think you have to realize, like, assess the person and their character and not just their background. What you see, like, oh, he was married before, oh, he has children. Now, I'm not saying to go and, pursue or, have interest in a guy that's been married 4 or 5 times, because I do think that's a red flag. Or a guy that has multiple children by multiple women. I do think that's a red flag, But I think with everything, you have to use wisdom and discernment in everything that you do. And I mean, I am a big component of prayer. Like, I do believe that you should pray about everything and anything, because if not, you're liable to end up with anything. Yes. And you're liable to settle. And then, getting back to that, I think when you've modified or grown and mature, it's not about, some people call it as settling. And I don't think I settle at all. I think I grew and mature to realize that, like, it's bigger than what I had, the image that I had in my mind is bigger than that. And it's much better. Like, we lay out a floor plan, and, my floor plan could have been just a single family home, 1 level, whatever, but God had a mansion in mind for me, so I'm thankful that his plans took precedence over mine, and that I was in a position to succumb or, yield to his plans for my life rather than what I had in mind.
Right. And I think, like, I know for me, sometimes it's twofold. Like, I'll go with the flow, but then I end up wasting time. So and I think that's another reason why we should set intentions.
I agree.
Because we're 40, so we don't have as much, I won't say I won't have as much time, but like, say if you want a family.
Yeah, I agree with you, Tamisha. And I think you have to be intentional with your time. Like my thing has always been, and I have another girlfriend that when I would tell her, I was like, it to me, and this is me, it doesn't take longer than a year at a certain age. If you're dating someone, or if you're, with my spouse, if he's dating me, I don't think it takes him longer than 4 seasons. And I say 4 seasons because I think you really need to see that person for each season. Most of the times, most people don't go out in the fall and winter because it's cold. So if you're with someone and you encounter them in the fall and winter, of course, you're going to be like, oh, we were always home. But then you realize in the spring, if you get engaged or, prematurely, you didn't realize that in the spring that this person is a party animal. They want to go out every Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. But in the fall, or if you were dating them in the fall and winter, when it's cold, like studies show, people stay in because it's cold and they don't want to go out. Not much is going on. Whereas in the summer, there's a lot going on. And someone, that you probably didn't know well, they're out every weekend, and then you're engaged. You're like, well, this wasn't the person that I met. No, that was always the person. You just didn't see that person in all 4 seasons. And I've also told by a friend, who this friend is, that you should travel with that person and see how they are and how you all travel together. But my biggest thing has always been, how does that person treat the people that can do absolutely nothing for them? I dated a guy where we went out to the restaurant and he would give the wait staff the hardest time for no reason, absolutely no reason. And I thought it was because he was a great tipper and just pulling their leg or whatever. But when I realized he didn't go above and beyond in tipping them, but he wanted them to go above and beyond in serving him. He was a selfish prick. And I was like, I don't want to end up with someone like that, because how someone treats people that can do absolutely nothing for them says a lot about their character.
No, absolutely. So I guess just to fast forward a little bit, how did you, when you were single, communicate your intentions to your dates? Did you let them know right away, or did you wait a while? Because I've had mixed reactions with both. Doing it both ways.
Yeah.
So I'm just curious to see how did you go about doing that, especially with your husband?
Yeah. Okay. Well, with my current husband, Brian, I let my intentions be known first as soon as we met. We met on a Sunday. We were assigned to work together for a project in Tampa, Florida. So we met on a Sunday. He asked me out that same night, and I was like, no, I don't know you. And by that Friday, we had gotten to know each other from working together. I felt comfortable with him. And so we decided to take a trip to Miami to see the Miami Heat game. And on that, it was a 4-hour ride, I think. During that 4-hour ride, I let my intentions be known to him, and it didn't scare him away at all. He wasn't intimidated by it. He was like, oh, okay. So I think it depends. But in the past, when I let my intentions be known, you're right. They were like, I think that's because it's kind of premature. Or they would be like, I think that's a lot. I would always make it known that, look, I'm not dating just to date. I'm dating with the intent of marriage. That's what I want. So I'm not just out here playing these games. I don't want to play house. I don't want to be in a situation where we're dating 10 years. That's not what I want. I mean, for some people, if that's what they want, that's fine. But that I knew firsthand that I've never wanted that, and that's not what I want. So I made that intention known. I made it known in the past, and I made it known to Brian. And then I'm sure it did scare some people where they probably thought not for me, which is fine. But I think ultimately you should communicate what your intentions are, to not waste time or to let that person know. Because my thing is, let me know up front and give me the option to choose. Whereas if you don't know, and then further on down the line, I'm like, well, hey, what about this? Well, you never mentioned that, and you never gave me the option to choose. So I would always advise to let it be known up front, but also use wisdom in all things. So if, you meet a random stranger, you're not going to be like, I'm ready to get married, with if that relationship or that whatever it is isn't built up. So I would just say use wisdom. But for me, I definitely let him know. I communicated my intentions firsthand, and that was my situation. It worked for me.
Right. And I think sometimes as women, we're afraid to let our intentions be known because we're scared to chase them off. However, men have no problem with letting you know their intentions, whether it's just for sex, whether I'm just looking for something, short term. I'm not looking for anything serious. I remember I went out with an older guy once, and on our first date, he made it know, he's like, my kids are grown. He was never married. However, he said he lived with the mother of his daughter for 15 years. So he knows what it feels like to be married. So he doesn't desire to get married or live with any woman ever again. Or to have any more kids. He said that he just wanted companionship, somebody to travel with, somebody to go out with. He made that known. And at the time I was like mid-30s. So I was just like, and you're going out with me because, I'm 35, 36. So,
I commend him for that, though. I have to say I commend him for that, because sometimes guys will say that, but they're not as direct with it with him. Like, he was straightforward. So you knew exactly what to expect, and he gave you the option to choose. I respect him for that. But just the same way where I was direct with Brian, my current husband, and I let him know, look, I'm not dating just to date. I do want a family. I want children. If you're not on board, then that's fine. But I'm just letting my intentions be known. And I also gave him the option to choose. But when people give you the option to choose, and when they make their intentions known and give you the option to choose, you can't help but respect it, because, you knew firsthand what you were walking into or what you were going to encounter.
Oh, no, absolutely. I respected it. And I also felt like, it's kind of, I won't say the same type of situation, but, like we met somewhere and we had small talk. So I felt that he probably should have known that I wasn't seeking companionship with him. It would have been something, more serious. So I was like, we could have not had dinner at that point. But we could have saved ourselves some time. So I almost thought he was looking for just like something pretty on his arm or something. But so when you communicated to Brian that, your intention is to get married, your intention is to have a family, and being that we were in our late 30s at the time, did you give him a timeline?
I did not give him a timeline. But initially, I would say, but I let it be known, like I said, the same way I just said to you, I don't think it takes longer than a year. But I did not give him a timeline or say, oh, you got to propose in a year. I did not do that. But I truly don't think it takes longer than a year at a certain age, because my husband's older than me. So he was previously married. So he knew all that marriage entailed and what children entailed. So I think at a certain age, you know who you are as a person, what you can and can't live with or without. But when you're young, that's different. Like in the 20s, you're like, I don't really know, because you don't know yourself. But we were both mature adults in our careers and everything in life. So we knew exactly what we wanted out of life. So there was just no need for us to waste time. But I did not say, oh, you have to propose to me in a year's time. No.
Oh, because I was asking that. I had a coworker from like maybe 10 years or so ago, and he was dating a young lady and he was with her for a few years. And I guess it got to a certain point, she gave him a deadline. And I don't think he took her seriously. So when the deadline came, she moved out like a thief in the night. She just packed her bags and left. And he was so heartbroken that he went and bought her a ring and, tried to propose to her afterwards. And, she was just like, well, I had to leave you for you to even think about, proposing. And he was like, well, I didn't really think you were serious. And I commend her for putting her foot down, because she was with him, I want to say 3 years or so. And she said the same thing. She wanted to be married and she wanted to be a mother. And she felt like her clock was ticking. But ironically, in his next relationship, he didn't take that long.
I've seen it happen also. I've seen it happen with several friends where they committed years with guys. And when they finally had enough and left, within a year or two, the guy married someone else. I've seen that. And that's why I just think with women, we have to really, when someone shows you who are, in the words of Maya Angelou, when someone shows you who they are, believe them. And if a guy comes up and says straightforward, look, I'm not looking to get married, that's not my, intention or whatever, then believe them, because, he's likely not going to change his mind. And like you stated earlier, they're quick to communicate to us what they do and don't want. And we as women, sometimes we hear it, but then we don't really truly respect it, because in our mind we have what we want and need. So with that situation where that friend, I'm wondering if that guy ever communicated to her that he just wasn't ready for marriage, and then she was like, oh, eventually he'll be ready. Because I know I didn't want to coerce, and I kind of, I'm not saying that about your friend. I didn't want a coerced engagement or a coerced proposal.
Right.
I wanted him to do it because he felt like that's what he wanted to do, or he knew that that's what he wanted to do. And he knew that he wanted me to be in his life, and he wanted to do life with me.
Right. And just to piggyback on what you said about when a person shows you who they are, it's also important to note when a person tells you who they are.
Yeah.
Believe them.
Yeah.
Because I know just from my recent situation, and you know about this, like I was the opposite of you. I was dating someone a little younger than me. And he was upfront. He was like, I like you, but we're in different places in our lives.
And that's true. Yeah.
So he felt that he needed more time to build, before he would be ready to be in that type of serious commitment. And I heard it and I said, okay. But even though they tell you that and you say, okay, but if you still entertain them, you still end up wasting your time.
Yeah.
Because they will still waste your time or still see you, still date you, even though they let you know if you're willing to go along with it.
Yeah, we're relational beings. So everyone wants companionship or some type of relationship. And then, friends are fine and all, but a friend can never give you that of a spouse or a companion, or, a companion, that feeling that a companion can give you. But friendship is fine, but they can never give you that which a companionship would give you.
All right. And that's what I had to learn. And even though in my mind, I wasn't trying to change his mind, but then I had to ask myself, why am I still entertaining it and closing myself off to other people?
Yeah.
If I know it's not going anywhere, definitely no time soon. And because of the age difference, with me wanting children, I didn't have that kind of time to give him, get more established in his career, et cetera, which is what he was working on. So That's another takeaway, is just listen and, be willing to walk away if need be, and not be friends if need be.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Not to say that you have to be like mean or harsh to the person, but sometimes, especially if you're attracted to the person, it's just hard to be friends with the person and not fall into that trap of dating, and then you're just dating forever.
Yeah, that cycle. Yeah, that vicious cycle of dating, because I know of also a friend's sibling, they've dated and they have everything of a husband and wife, but except for the exact title. They have a house together, they have children together, but they've never married. And for some people that might be okay, but for me, I just wanted more. I knew. And then some people are like, oh, it's just a piece of paper. No, it's more than just a piece of paper. Why do you think that so many people are fighting to get married or have marriage, them classified as marriage? Because there's more to it. There's more than just a piece of paper.
Right. And even with relationships, it's more than just companionship. Because I had a guy told me once that he was looking for a situationship. And I was like, well, what is a situationship? He was just like, well, we're exclusive, but we're not so-called in a relationship. But
that makes absolutely no sense. So what?
Right.
No, that sounds like friends with benefits. No.
Absolutely. And I guess that's the new term for it.
Entanglement? Is it entanglement?
Well, he said situationship.
Yeah, situationship. I never even heard of that. I guess I've only been out of the game 3 years, 4 years, from the time we date. So wow, okay.
Yeah, I never heard of that because he was just like, well, I don't want to see nobody else but you, but I'm not ready to commit. So
then that makes sense. That's so contradictory to me. I don't want to see anyone but you, but I'm not ready to commit to you. You see, and that's the thing, playing these games, it's a mind game. And then, no, I'll pass. Thanks, but no thanks.
Yeah, absolutely. So, and I think like that's why it's so important to set your intentions so you won't even get to those type of conversations. Mm-hmm. If you make your intentions known, then you won't have to worry about someone approaching you with a situationship because they'll know that you are not going for anything like that anyway.
But the thing is, he knew that about you, but he still told you. So, you can make your intentions known and people will still approach you, but it's up to you to stick to those, intentions or goals, whatever you've laid out for yourself.
Yeah. And I'll clarify, we had gone out for a few times too. So I knew that about him going forward as well. So it's not like he just sprung that on me. So, but that was something to me that I should have listened early on when he mentioned it instead of, oh, he's cool. We get along really well. He can be somebody I hang out with, but if you're attracted to him, it's really hard to just like say, be cool and hang out without thinking of anything else. So I knew that going forward. I mean, I knew that from like the first or second date that he didn't want anything serious, but I still continued to go out with him. So, and I know you've told me several times, don't waste your time, Johnson. Stop wasting your time.
Yeah.
Johnson. So that's why I wanted to talk to you.
Yeah. And I have, because, I know you and I know your character and you're a great girl and you're a great catch. And not just you, but all of our friends, we have multiple friends in the same situation as you. And I know that these are great women that don't need to settle, and they have a lot to offer any guy, and any guy would be blessed to have them. And I don't think that even, we should, or you all should wait and waste time, or just because I'm finding that more and more men, I don't know why. And that's probably because of, all the options and stuff out there. They're not looking to settle down, it seems, or just not ready or not there yet. Not knocking them at all. But I don't think as a woman that you should be on someone's situationship, or whatever the terminology that guy used towards you, situationship. So,
Yeah. So as we wrap up, I just want to remind everyone to set your intentions, whether it's by prayer, fasting, journaling, meditating, whichever method you choose. Sonya chose prayer and fasting. I meditate, I journal. And I find that helps keep me on track. So again, thank you, Sonya, for sharing your story. And we wish you and Brian many more years of happy marriage.
Thanks, Tamisha. And I wish you the same. And it's going to happen. And, just always remember, a delay is not a denial. And that's what's just going to make it all, all the best or all the better for you. So thank you for having me. It was nice talking to you.
Thanks for listening to the Perfectly Imperfect Podcast. Want more inspiration? Join our Facebook group, the Perfectly Imperfect Empowerment Circle. Want to share your story with us? Email us at podcast@perfectlyimperfect.com. That's podcast@perfectlyimperfect.com. And until next time, remember, life doesn't have to be perfect to be wonderful. Talk to you soon.